Your eyeshadow shimmers, your lip gloss sparkles, and your highlighter shines, all thanks to this vital ingredient, mica, a sought-after mineral used in cosmetic products for that radiant glow. But attaining beauty comes at a price. That burden falls on the thousands of miners working illegally in one of India's poorest regions.
ऐसा गाँव में कुछ है ही नहीं सके. एक दिन खा, एक दिन ना. एक दिन भूखल, एक दिन प्यास.
तो रेत के चलती हजारों आदमी भूखे मर जाते.
मैं ऊपर से चाल गिर गया. और दबने के बाद वो जो ठेकेदार था और उसका बेटा और उसका दामाद वो वहाँ से छोड़ के सबको भाग गया.
Their family have only one option, go to mica mines. They have to earn some income. So children also go along with them.
Where the consumer is not concerned, the industry can just hide. The high-profile brands do need to be responsive about what is said out there.
This is the ugly secret behind the billion-dollar beauty business. The global cosmetics industry is worth over 500 billion US dollars and growing. From indie companies to luxury brands with celebrity endorsements, the market is overflowing with products.
There's been a boom in the cosmetic industry. With social media and the rapid pace at which info is just put out, it's more accessible. Because there's shimmer in the blushes, we can actually use them as lipstick. And I found it's a nice option to have almost like a matte lipstick.
Stephanie Lee is a veteran makeup artist who has seen how certain looks and products become sought after by women.
I would say, as a makeup artist, the trend has definitely changed from something more heavy towards radiant skin, very sparkly eyes, and shimmery lips. It gives you this radiant, I'm a goddess kind of vibe.
Sparkly, shimmery, radiant. Take a closer look at makeup products, and you are likely to see this ingredient, mica. Mica is a naturally occurring mineral that can be ground down to create sparkling powders. From cars to cosmetics, mica is responsible for all that glitters. Next to more complex ingredient names, it seems harmless. But behind the glitter lies a deadly industry. While mica can be found on every continent, India is regarded as having some of the world's largest and finest deposits. But it's not the quality of its mica that is drawing attention. For over a decade, investigative reporter Peter Bengtson has been tracking the murky trade of this mineral in the eastern state of Jharkhand.
This part of India is super remote and it's really rural and poor. For many villagers in these countryside areas, mica is the only option for income. The more hands you get to go to the mines, the more children you have and who are able to help get food on the table.
Jharkhand is immensely rich in mineral resources. But while almost half of India's coal, copper and mica come from this state, nearly 50% of its people still live in poverty. "40-year-old Basanti Mosamat is from a small, informal mica mining community in Jharkhand. Once a week, Basanti makes a 10-kilometer trek from her village into the forest. She carries 3 days' worth of rations for her family and fellow villagers. Their task? To find and collect enough mica to feed their families.
सब परिवार दिक्कत तो सब कुछ है, लेना हो पानी भी दिक्कत हो जाओ। आवाज नदिये में पानी लिए ले जेठ बैसाख जैसे एतन सर तो नदिया में बो।
Basanti's husband died 6 months ago. Her father-in-law, Nanku, stays with her and her 5 children.
जंगल में हम लोग के परेशानी यही होता है कि जैसे हम लोग अगर यदि घर से अगर यदि हम लोग आते हैं फ्लोरिया ग्राम से, तो अगर यदि हम लोग इतना दूरी हम लोग चलाते हैं चुनने बिछने के लिए, तो सोचते हैं हम लोग के अगर यदि जंगल में जाते हैं तो बच्चा लोग सब क्या कहता है कि बोल हम लोग उतना दूरी नहीं जा पा रहे हैं, तो हम लोग बच्चा सब लेकर के कहता कि ठीक है नहीं जा पा रहे, चलो हम लोग जंगले में झोपड़ी लगा करके।
The family's only source of income is from picking and selling scrap mica, commonly known as dibra. With each scrap weighing mere grams, the entire group hopes to collect a few kilos worth over the next few days. Nanku has no other option than to mine mica. Prone to drought and poor soil, Jharkhand's land conditions make it unsuitable for farming. Deepak Bara is a freelance video journalist who is based in Jharkhand. He has been documenting the state's mining policies for the past 15 years.
When it comes to irrigation, these areas are poor and people suffer due to they cannot have agriculture, and the education is very low. They just have to turn towards the business of mica to just support their families.
Nanku and this community are part of India's 100 million indigenous people, also known as Adivasis. They are regarded as the earliest inhabitants of India, who used to occupy much larger areas than they do now.
ऐसे तो हम लोग के जंगल में हम लोग से रह नहीं है और गुजारिए रहे हम लोग जंगले में, और जंगले से हम लोग का खुदा जन्म हुआ है।
The Adivasis make up over a quarter of Jharkhand's 38.5 million population. They live on the outskirts of society and receive little support from the government in terms of health, education, job security and food.
राशन वही मिलता है कि घर में एक कार्ड दिया गया है, एक कार्ड पर में 35 किलो चावल मिलता है। 35 किलो चावल में कितना हम लोग, जैसे हम लोग हैं 8 व्यक्ति हैं, तो 8 व्यक्ति में हम लोग 10 व्यक्ति में 35 किलो चावल में होगा नहीं है। इसी के चलते सोचते हैं कि अगर जो उतना नहीं पूरा आता तो चलो भाई जंगल में अपना हम लोग जाते हैं, आते हैं, उसके बाद में हम लोग जो मिलता है सो हम लोग चुन चान के बेचते हैं, अपना बाल बच्चा का जीवन रोटी चलाते हैं। है देखिए देखिए कसम कसम तो देखिए रिकॉर्ड कर लियो देखिए देखिए टेबल, हाँ, देखिए टेबल, देखो, जल्दी जल्दी।
Continuously digging without any protective gear has left their hands scrapped and badly bruised. From dawn to dusk, they claw through the dusty piles of rubble in search of this mineral that glimmers even in its most raw form. But all that sparkle doesn't amount to much for the miners. Each kilo of mica scraps currently sells for 10 US cents. On a good day, they can collectively earn $2 US.
जितना हम दिक्कत से रहा है ये, उन दिक्कत से खा है ये, अभी देखा जड़ी वहाँ कोड़ ले ये, हाथवा खराब हो जा, कोड़ते कोड़ते। अगर जे सुनबा नहीं तो क्या बोल किस तरह इस तक खाते ना कैसे रहा थे।
Extreme poverty has also forced miners into dangerous situations. In a bid to seek out bigger quantities of mica, many descend into unstable caves, putting their lives at risk.
ये तो हो जाता है कोई सा घटना तो एक के चलती हजारों आदमी भूखे मर जाते हैं।
Mica is the all-important mineral that provides sparkle and shine to eyeshadows, lip gloss, and many other beauty products. The global mica market is forecast to be worth almost $700 million by 2024. 1.2 million metric tons of this mineral are mined annually. In Jharkhand, eastern India, there are two main mining districts, Koderma and Giridih. Almost half of Jharkhand's population lives in poverty. Some of the poorest communities live near forested areas, which are devoid of basic facilities. The lack of jobs, schools, and businesses has forced locals to seek their livelihood in dangerous situations. While many sift through topsoil for scrap mica, there are those who descend into abandoned caves and mine shafts to look for greater lodes. There are no safety measures here. Each descent is a gamble for these mica hunters.
फावड़ा लेकर आते हैं, टप्पा लेकर आते हैं, छीनी लेकर आते हैं, घन लेकर आते हैं, हथौड़ी, इसी से फोड़ते चूरते हैं। खतरा इसमें कुछ नहीं है, लेकिन है हेडमेंट रहता है, वो सब चीज़ नहीं है। घन है, छेनी है, जूता चाहिए, ये सब होना चाहिए, लोहा वाला जूता चाहिए। ये सब चप्पल से काम चलेगा? कहीं फिसल गए, कहीं गिर गए, कहीं भी पत्थर भी गिर गया ऊपर से तो दिक्कत तो है ही है।
With no proper lighting or safety gear, underground miners often rely on their knowledge of the terrain to guide them. Mukesh Bulla has been mining for mica since he was a young boy.
ज़्यादा जैसे होता है, यही जो पत्थर जो है ना, ये भुजा है। इसके साइड में भी तिलकुट माटी होता है, ये वाला जो है सो तिलकुट की तरह। ये वाला जो है, इसका इधरे माल लग सकता है, बड़ा माल इधर के बीच में, इधरे ये भुजा अंदर में, इसी के धारी में लगेगा माल आपको बड़ा माल लग सकता है जो कि पेट भर जा सकता है।
Abandoned mines like these are especially dangerous and unpredictable.
डर तो लगता है लेकिन अपना सूचित से काम करना पड़ता है। जैसे कि जिस तरह से जगह है उस जगह में देख करके काम करना पड़ता है कि तो हो जाता है कोई सा घटना तो एक के चलती हजारों आदमी भूखे मर जाते हैं।
Mining collapses happen frequently. In January 2021, there were at least 3 reports of mine collapses in Jharkhand's Koderma district. It is estimated that 10 to 20 people lose their lives in such mishaps each month.
मेरे जो चाचा जी हैं वो जंगल में जाके और मिट्टी जो खोदा हुआ रहता ना उसमें जाके चूमते थे। एक दिन क्या हुआ, कोई जो ठेकेदार है वो उनको बुला के ले गए और बोले चलो तुमको हम तिहाड़ी देंगे 200 रुपया और तुमको वहीं पर काम करवाएंगे। और इस सब को बोले कि तुम लोग जाओ नीचे और जाके निकालो। ऊपर से चाल गिर गया और वो जैसे दब गए, वहाँ चारों के चारों दब गए। और दबने के बाद वो जो ठेकेदार था और उसका बेटा और उसका दामाद वो वहाँ से छोड़ के सबको भाग गया।
Like most mining accidents, that went unreported and was never investigated for fear that authorities would put a halt to their activities. Because mining mica in Jharkhand is illegal. In 1980, the Forest Conservation Act came into effect with the intent to protect India's vast forests. In Jharkhand, this had a direct impact on mica mining. The mineral was classified as a forest produce, making it illegal to mine or remove it from the land. Suddenly, a once vibrant industry had to go underground. At its peak in the first half of the 20th century, India had over 20,000 miners working in 700 mines. Fifth-generation landowner Deepak Kumar Singh has witnessed the rise and fall of the once booming mica industry.
किसी चीज को छुए आप, उसमें माइका है। तो अंग्रेज कहते थे कि कोई हिंदुस्तानी माइका नहीं छू सकता, नहीं तो उसकी आंखें खराब हो जाएंगी। वो माने नहीं अंग्रेज, उनको मन था कि हिंदुस्तानी को नहीं देना है इसके बारे में। जब एक लाल टोपी को देखकर गांव का गांव खाली होता था, उस जमाने में लड़ाई लड़ी अंग्रेजों से और पहला बार ये पोजीशन लिया। और उसके बाद फिर तब माइनिंग होता रहा। माइनिंग एकदम अपने पराकाष्ठा में जाता रहा। माइनिंग काफ़ी लोगों को माइनिंग मिल गया।
Although it is outlawed in Jharkhand, many indigenous communities continue to mine today. At least 70% of India's mica output is illegally mined. Despite the risks, miners like Mukesh remain undeterred.
अरे देश में यही सब रोजगार है, ये कि इसी से रोटी, कपड़ा और सब जो चीज है सब इसी से होता है। काहे कि हम अकेला एक मर जाएंगे, लेकिन हमारे जैसे हजारों करोड़ों आदमी का पेट भूखे रह जाएगा। इसलिए कि सूचित से काम करना चाहिए।
In mica-abundant areas, everyone in the family, including children, can be found scrounging for mica.
The high-profile brands do need to be responsive about what is said out there, but they are also very cautious about over-committing.
The demand for better beauty is insatiable. Every year, a quarter of all cosmetics products on the market are either improved or reformulated completely. Singaporean Narissa Low founded an independent organic makeup brand in 2017. Her aim was to cut out unnecessary and potentially harmful chemicals found typically in many makeup items. Mica is an important ingredient in her array of products.
So mica is typically used to create the pigments in makeup products. It is also easy to be ground into fine powder to be able to create the textures that's needed for your pressed foundations, your blush, your eyeshadows.
After researching further, Narissa became concerned about using mica from India. Instead, she turned to suppliers in America, where the mica industry is more transparent.
Mica is an ingredient that is seen as controversial because people have differing views on the possible side effects, whether it's ethically sourced or not. Having mica sourced from India, of course, the transparency would be a little bit of a concern.
Mica's controversial reputation emerged in the mid-2000s when there were investigations into the use of child labor in the industry. According to the International Labour Organization, India has over 10 million working children. Jharkhand is one of the worst states in this regard. With no proper childcare or schooling system for indigenous communities, children often accompany their parents to pick mica. Basanti's 14-year-old daughter, Karishma, has been working in the mines since she was 5. As the oldest child, she feels it is a necessity to help a family.
इसी तरह जब अकेली आती थी तो हम लोग भी साथ में हैं कि नहीं अकेले से घर नहीं चलेगा अब सब यीशु भी तो हमको बाप नहीं है पापा तो भी अति हो गया इसीलिए कि मदद करना चाहिए उसके बाद फिर ढीरा चुनते हैं मट्टी निकालते हैं कोड़ते हैं हम लोग भी कोड़ते हैं भी ढीरा वगैरह फिर माटी निकालते हैं बहुत बड़ा बड़ा मेस में खा रहे जब से लॉकडाउन बंद हुआ था ये टप्पा है इसी टप्पा से चुनते हैं हम लोग ढीरा वगैरह
India's indigenous children are severely disenfranchised, particularly in the eastern states. With no access to nutritious food, more than 40% are malnourished.
इसीलिए कुछ सुविधा नहीं है यहाँ पर फ्लोरिया में रहने का भी मन नहीं करता है ऐसा गाँव में कुछ है ये नहीं तो एक दिन खा एक दिन ना एक दिन भूखल एक दिन प्यास सपना देकर सपना नहीं रहती होता है
International organizations like Danwatch and Ethical Consumer have raised concerns about the situation.
In about 2009, in Europe, we first began to read stories about the problems in mica mines in India particularly, and the child labour was the issue that always alerts Western consumers to problems. They are very sensitive to the child labour issue. Where the consumer is not concerned, the industry can just hide and it cannot worry about anything. So in a sense, the high-profile brands do need to be responsive about what is said out there, but they are also very cautious about over-committing.
Stories of children working in the mines set off a chain of reports exposing the underbelly of India's mica industry.
International media was also attracted to this plight of people. They had to, the stories came out, children going to mica mines, helping out their parents. So many documentaries were made which exploited the issue of child labor.
The spotlight only brought unwanted attention to what had been going on for decades. But while it was portrayed as a system of brutal exploitation, Jharkhand's politicians and journalists argue that these reports fail to address one critical detail: the marginalization of indigenous people.
Children around mica mines, their family have only one option: go to mica mines and pick debra. There is no child care support from the government. If there is any, it's not functional. So children also go along with them. They have to earn their family some income.
Sudivya Kumar, a member of Jharkhand's Legislative Assembly, feels aggrieved by the accusations. His anger is echoed by the area's mining community, who feel they have been unfairly maligned.
देखिए, सबसे पहले तो मैं ये कहना चाहूँगा कि बाल श्रम माइका व्यवसाय में है, खनन व्यवसाय में है, ये स्थापित कराने के पीछे लोगों के अपने वेस्टेड इंटरेस्ट हैं। जो कंट्रीज़ हमारी क्वालिटी में, हमारे प्रोडक्ट के प्राइस में हमारा मुकाबला नहीं कर सकती है, वो हमें कंपटीशन से बाहर करने के लिए इस तरीके के आरोपों को मढ़ती है। और जो लोग बाल श्रम का हवाला देते हैं, आपके माध्यम से मैं उनसे भी ज़रूर से जानना यह चाहूँगा कि बाल श्रम की परिभाषा क्या है। कि जब गांव के बगल में लोगों के पास रोजगार और काम खत्म हो गया, तो माँ अगर ढिबरा चुनने के लिए जा रही है तो उसका बच्चा भी उसके साथ हो लिया। उसने भी जाकर उसको चुनने के क्रम में मदद कर दी। लेकिन ये मसला नहीं है कि बाल श्रम के मायने ये होते हैं कि कोई नियोक्ता बाल श्रमिकों को नियोजित कर उत्पादन अगर कर रहा है तो बाल श्रम की बात आनी चाहिए। लेकिन सवाल ये है कि कोई पिता को उसका 14 साल का बच्चा ढिबरा पिकिंग में मदद करने के उद्देश्य से चला गया और आप उस फोटो को खींचकर बाल श्रम का कलंक इस व्यवसाय पर मढ़ दें, तो ये हमको लगता है कि ये अनुचित है।
In response to the growing concerns, global coalitions such as the Responsible Mica Initiative, or RMI, were formed with the intent to eradicate child mining in Jharkhand by 2022 by promoting better regulation and practices. Brands like L'Oreal, Chanel, and Sephora are among the members. Despite these heavyweight signatories, change has been slow to come.
The problem around mica is systemic problem. It's not like you do a small campaign and things will get sorted out. The ground reality is very different. Any NGO who wants to work here, even government agencies here, you'll have to look at from the perspective of health, employment, education, agriculture, environment, and so many things. You'll have to look at the community as a whole.
For the rare few who manage to avoid working in the mines, there are still plenty of obstacles to overcome.
हम तो खुद संघर्ष किए हैं और अपने पति को भी किए हैं और हम अपने बेटों को जहाँ तक हो सका पढ़ने के लिए ही उसको भेजे हैं। बाल बच्चे मतलब बच्चों के हाथ में कॉपी पेन होने के जगह में मतलब क्या बोले छर और मतलब गमला पकड़ा देते हैं कि चलो बेटा माल चुनो और कमाओ और खाओ।
Dimpy Devi is a mother of 3. She mines mica from a nearby forest, as well as from the deposits that occur in her garden.
1 क्विंटल का पैसा ये लॉकडाउन का पहले तो 5 रुपये जाता था, लेकिन अभी जा रहा है 4.5 रुपया। तो 1 क्विंटल अगर चुनते हैं ना तो उसमें 10% वादी ले लेता है। मिट्टी जैसे ये देख रहे हैं, ये अदरक है, इसमें तो मिट्टी लगी है, ठीक है। इतना तो हम लोग साफ करके इसको दे नहीं रहे हैं, तो इसी कारण से हम लोग को मतलब 10% मतलब जो पार्टी माल लेता है ना उस बाद करके लेता है। इस तरह से साफ रहता ना तो 10% नहीं काटता। तो इस तरह से हम लोग उतना नहीं कर पाते हैं। उतना अगर करेंगे तो 10 किलो भी माल नहीं चुन पाएंगे।
Dimpy lives in constant uncertainty because of her status in the eyes of the law.
वो डर, जैसे फॉरेस्ट विभाग का कहना है कि ये सरकारी संपत्ति है, ये आप लोग जो माइका चुनते हैं ये अनलीगल है। तो यहाँ पर कोडरमा जिला में ये तो अदरक और पत्थर से ही आदमी जुड़ा है, और अदरक और पत्थर ही नहीं अगर चलेगा ना तो गरीब आदमी ऐसे ही मर जाएगा बेमौत। उसके अलावा कुछ रोजगार ही नहीं है यहाँ पे, क्या करके खाएगा। फिर भी चोरी चुपके करके अगर करता है, मान के चलिए सप्ताह में अगर 2-3 हज़ार का खर्च है तो 1500 भी नहीं कर पाते हैं। तो उससे बहुत मतलब परेशानी उठाना पड़ता है, और इसी तरह मतलब क्या कहें, मर मर के जीना पड़ता है। ये भी ज़िंदगी से हम लोग अजीज हो गए हैं। लगता है कि मतलब यहाँ तो कुछ वैसा व्यवसाय नहीं है हम लोग का कि कुछ काम करें।
When faced with additional family or health expenses, mica pickers have few resources to tap on. Unable to access formal banking systems, they turn to unlicensed lenders. With interest rates as high as 200% a year, many families find themselves trapped in a cycle of debt and bonded labor.
Some miners told us that they are only allowed to sell mica to specific traders, those traders that they borrowed money from, and to a price decided by that trader. And then that agreement would basically last until they had repaid their debt to this trader. You definitely see the risk of bonded labor when these dependencies are created between wealthy lenders and the poor borrowers.
Other than speaking to grassroots workers and activists, villagers have few avenues to air their grievances. Journalists like Ashok Verma gather informal feedback to document the challenges they face.
पहले चुनते थे तो कितना कमा लेते थे एक दिन में?
पहले 2 रुपये 1.5 रुपये किलो दो बोल।
कितना एक दिन में कितना चुन लेते थे?
करते चल 5 किलो 6 किलो एक
अभी जब से लोग वो भी काम नहीं मिलता है। अर्थव्यवस्था बिगड़ा हुआ, बिगड़ने के कारण हम लोग माइका में जाते हैं या गिट्टी गाड़ी में जाते हैं। जो रोजगार यहाँ चलेगा वही रोजगार में करेंगे। पर भी अवसर दबाव पूरा सब कुछ कागज ओके।
Raids by forest authorities are common, and miners sometimes resort to paying a bribe or risk being shut down.
These areas, apart from being run by contractors, they are being run by their criminal goons, and there is a whole network of people who make this mining happen, and they are very powerful, and it can be very dangerous. It can be life-threatening because there are so many stakeholders.
Even deep in the forest, Basanti is not safe.
कुन डरावा है रेंज पे सबले थाना वाला तो जल्दी नहीं आवे रेंज पे सबले आवा हाथे डरावे ले यही है और ये चुनना हलिए और ये सब एकदम लेन लगल रहा हमन ढिबरा चुन रहा है और ऐसे फटैया ले आओ। हाँ बोल चुनो चुनो तुम लोग के कुछ भी दिक्कत नहीं होएगा। फटैया करा हला और चंगरिया निकाला हला मटिया। बोलो तुम लोग का डरना नहीं है से बोलो चुनो चुनो अदरक।
The demand for mica is not letting up, and mica miners continue to work in dire conditions. But there are large global forces at play too.
These industries make billions of dollars in revenue. They make supercomputers, self-driving cars, complex beauty products, but somehow they cannot trace mica from 1 or 2 areas in India.
Today I'll be going through some makeup products that I have received. I have with me today 5 new lipstick shades.
Edlin Xiao is part of a growing group of social media personalities who review cosmetic products. 80% of beauty brands engage influencers to promote new product launches, giving them an important voice in the beauty industry.
To be honest, I'm actually very embarrassed to only be finding out about all these only now. I mean, I've been using makeup for ages. It was initially just pure shock. I looked at videos and learned many new things about mica. It made me think that how come I wasn't aware of these things before?
The illegal mica mining trade in Jharkhand has been an open secret for years. But how does this ill-gotten mineral get a clean bill of certification? The answer lies 100 kilometers away. In the mining district of Koderma, the mica cottage industry is in full force. Regardless of its origin, local traders here can get a license to process and sell mica. Men and women from surrounding villages work in factories picking, cleaning, sorting and processing mica for international export. It is a laborious and hazardous job. Workers spend over 10 hours a day in confined spaces sorting through piles of mica. Their thin cotton saris and scarves are the only protection they have against breathing in the microparticles of mica dust. Prolonged exposure can lead to chronic respiratory problems and lung disease. Over 80% of Jharkhand's processed mica will be exported to companies in China, Japan and Germany. Ankit Bagaria is the director of Ruby Mica, a family business established in 1968. Each day, they are able to supply up to 1,000 kilograms of mica powder to buyers all over the world.
We manufacture over 50 different products, catering to 11 different industry segments and supply to over 50 countries worldwide. So our customers are coming from a diverse background, diverse population.
In 2019, India exported over $58 million worth of mica to the world, with the biggest buyers being China and Japan. Ruby Mica is a member of the Responsible Mica Initiative.
You'll find a lot of bad publicity trying to tarnish and give this industry a bad name. We are actually generating employment. We are actually generating a livelihood. We are trying to raise the standard of the region.
Given the vast quantities bought and traded, it can seem impossible to track where exactly a brand's mica comes from. By the time it's mixed and reprocessed into thousands of products, no one is any wiser about how it was mined.
back then, mica was totally overlooked and underreported. No media attention, no attention by civil society groups internationally, and corporate attention to mica was next to nothing too.
But when the allegations broke, makeup and automobile companies immediately came under fire. The big names responded and pledged stricter compliance in managing their supply chains. But some acknowledged the difficulties in tracing their mica and checking whether it was child labor free.
These industries make billions of dollars in revenue. They make supercomputers, self-driving cars, complex beauty products, but somehow they cannot trace mica from 1 or 2 areas in India. I don't think it's a question about ability, honestly. I think it's a question about interest.
Traceability has become a key concern for some manufacturers. In January 2021, the European Union began legislating gold, tungsten, and tin as conflict minerals, and companies were now obligated to source their minerals responsibly.
The reason for these different pieces of legislation is to make businesses a lot more accountable for what happens in their international supply chain. And in some instances, fines can be applied if they are found to have breached human rights or environmental rules overseas within the supply chain as well.
But to date, such regulation for mica has yet to be addressed.
Mica is quite a cheap raw material to actually produce. And so the cost of actually making sure that it's been responsibly sourced as a proportion of the cost of the product sometimes does not make economic sense compared to other raw materials like gold or cobalt.
Eugene Tay is part of a responsible sourcing company that uses blockchain technology to verify the origin of goods and minerals in supply chains. While he sees tech as part of the solution, he notes that more work is needed to make ethical trading a common practice.
Our role in all of this is to provide the technology that is easy to be adopted and used by different people across the world. In order to ensure that responsible sourcing practices are happening, they might have to be legislated for, and organizations will need to build in the costs of compliance into their value chains. And we as consumers need to accept that there is an increased cost to us.
In my position, I can help people to be more aware, or maybe I can start even to question brands if they are actually willing to talk about things. Ultimately, it is up to my audiences to actually figure out whether they want to choose to buy these products or not.
In Koderma district, a community rally has been organized for mica pickers to voice their concerns.
चाहे वो माइका है, चाहे वो हीरा है, चांदी है, सोना है, उस पर हमारा हक माने है। संभव है। ये मांग पत्र हम दे रहे हैं, जिन लोगों ने गौर से इसको सुना।
Such rallies are being organized more frequently as the gravity of the problem can no longer be ignored by authorities. Legislative Assemblyman Sudivya Kumar is using the momentum to continue advocating for the legalization of mining.
और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण तो मैंने पहले ही कहा कि चूंकि इसकी व्यापकता नहीं थी तो सरकारों ने, पॉलिसी मेकर्स ने कभी इसके बारे में सोचा नहीं। हमारा मानना यह है कि झारखंड चूंकि वन संपदा से आच्छादित प्रदेश रहा है तो कहीं न कहीं यहाँ के डीएनए में जंगलों को संरक्षित करते हुए जीवन यापन की एक पद्धति शुरू से चली आई है। सामुदायिक हितों की संरक्षा करते हुए और वनों की संरक्षा करते हुए बीच का कोई रास्ता निकल जाए जिससे सामुदायिक हित भी बचे रहें और वन भी बचे रहें और एक सहजीविता के सिद्धांत में कम्युनिटी और हमारा जो एसेट है, हमारा जो रिसोर्सेज है, इसका भी सही उपयोग होता रहे, यही सबसे आदर्श स्थिति होगी। और कहीं ना कहीं प्रयास इसी बात का है, किसी आदर्श स्थिति को हम लोग ला सकें।
Under India's constitution, indigenous people are entitled to live off the land. Along with fruits, flowers and other minerals, mica was once classified as forest produce, a status that they say should be restored.
ढिबरा का काम ही मेन काम चलता है, जैसे कि लोगों का जीविका अर्जन होता है, और उसके ढिबरा के पिकिंग के प्रोसेस में वो फॉरेस्ट को कहीं कोई डैमेज नहीं करता, क्योंकि मिट्टी में ढिबरा है। ढिबरा क्या चीज़ है, जो कि पहले माइनिंग का काम हुआ था, उसके डेब्रिस को जो स्टॉक किया गया था, उसमें से वो ढिबरा निकालते हैं। उसमें फॉरेस्ट का कहीं कोई हनन नहीं होता है, लेकिन उस पर रोक दिया जाता है।
तो हम लोग ये जंगल के जड़ी बूटी करते हैं, खाते हैं, अपना रहते हैं, बाल बच्चा के भविष्य में अपना करवाते हैं, उसी से हम लोग पेट पालते हैं। प्रशासन यही बोलता है कि जंगल में अगर तुम लोग रहते हो तो जंगल में बहुत कुछ तुम लोग बर्बाद कर देते हो, काटते हो, पीटते हो, बहुत ऐसे बेचते हो। तो हम लोग भाई जंगल में रहने वाला आदमी है, तो हम लोग कहाँ जाएंगे?
Dimpy, like many others, will continue to mine as it's her only means of survival.
नहीं तो फिर जैसे मान के चलिए अगर ढिबरा ही चुनते हैं, वो हम लोग को रास्ता क्लियर दे गवर्नमेंट, ताकि हम लोग को अपना रोजी रोटी चलाने में दिक्कत ना हो, ये होनी चाहिए।
The Jharkhand state government is pushing for mining to be one of its economic growth initiatives. But so far, no real action has been taken with mica mining. And without a clear plan for change, the dire need to survive will remain as it is for now.